This is great. Thank you.
Oh, let's get us straight. Okay. Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. Welcome to the Freedom Exchange. I think we're not centered.
Okay, here we are.
Are we centered? Okay. Today, we have a fun new friend for me and an older friend for you, but you're finally getting to hang out with her in person. So we have Kimberly Haven today. Welcome, Kimberly.
Thank you. Hi, how are you all?
We're good. We just spent a few minutes with her before we came on, and you're cracking me up because I just love a girl that's a straight shooter and just says it like it is. And then you give looks on your face that I could totally read through. So I loved that. You're our girl.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about what we're doing here?
You mean what the Freedom Exchange is?
That's it.
Okay, so the Freedom Exchange was birthed out of the need, we thought, to have conversations with people who have never been in prison, people that don't know anybody personally that have gone to prison, sometimes because others don't talk about it. So we have met so many cool people, and we wanted to provide a space for people to chat and a place for people to share what they're doing and kind of disintegrate shame and bridge communities. And really, I love always doing an ask so people can listen and say, hey, what can I do to help, or what can I do for a cause? And then we also have our Facebook Live on now. I'm hoping, I think it is. And then if you want to ask any questions as you're listening, we can address that towards the end.
Yeah, so please ask questions. And then towards the end of the hour, we will start looking at them and seeing what's going on there. One thing I love that what we do, and we're going to do it right off the bat with Kimberly today, is go through some of the ways that people are involved in advocacy and bringing awareness to the prison, we'll say, injustice system. And you've always said that you had no idea when you were in that people were doing work. And
I had no idea.
And that wasn't that many years ago. And so
I was shocked when I heard there was. I heard about FAM, and that's it, because my mom would send me articles about them. But I had no idea anyone was fighting, anyone cared, really.
So we, in our title, we have that Kimberly's been doing this work before it was sexy, because it was a long time ago. And you had told me that you were one of several or a handful of women in this world, but now it's blowing up right now, which is a great thing. And we'll get into that whole pendulum thing that you and I have talked about. But let's just start off with you. Hello. And do you want to say anything before we get going?
Well, I just want to have the conversation. So let's just jump right into it. And start talking about the field, talk about the work and experiences. And I did want to kind of piggyback on something that you said, Christy, about people who don't know somebody that's been in prison, or and I thought about this earlier today, because you can't swing a cat. For all you cat lovers, I apologize, just an old expression.
I'm picturing
So you can't swing a cat and not hit somebody who's been impacted by the criminal justice system.
So it's close.
In some form or fashion, whether you want to admit it or not. Mm-hmm. It's your neighbor, it's your family, it's you, somebody you work with, their child or something like that. So we're all, intricately interwoven in this. We all know somebody through some form of exposure to it. And so that's what makes this such a universally important issue to talk about.
Well, a great example of that is this one sitting right here. We were friends for a while, and I had no idea her father was in prison. Mm-hmm. I had no idea when you described about having that he didn't come to baseball. Was it baseball games? But then the what they caught on the surveillance was in your baseball hat. I mean, those are big things, right? I mean, I'm like, I didn't know that. And that was because we talked about a lot of things. And so, but now we are. So yeah, that's a great statement. Is that okay that I shared that?
Yes.
Okay. I should have I should have asked first. But yeah, I mean, that's a big thing a friend of yours is carrying, and you may not know it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's a detail that I think is sort of significant that I hadn't picked up on, but I'm starting to get in touch with that whole dad in prison thing right now. So, okay, I'm going to read down. I'm going to just ask you one at a time some of the things you've been involved in so much over the years, but these are your current things. And I just, for those that are watching,
current.
Who knew these things were out there and people were doing this work? So I'm going to put my eyeballs on. Okay. Kimberly, can you tell us about the legislative liaison for solitary confinement?
Yes, I have now been doing I lead the legislative effort for Interfaith Action for Human Rights to end the misuse, and abuse of solitary confinement in Maryland.
You just paused, Kimberly, so we're hoping you come back.
She
must have gotten a call.
That actually is a call from a prison.
That happened last
Two times in a row. It's okay.
Oh my gosh, I am so sorry.
If you want to get it, we can pause.
Yeah, we'll just listen. Go ahead and answer.
No.
Aww.
Okay, we love it.
So sorry.
Don't be sorry. We love it.
This is the perfect place for that.
You're doing the work. You get calls from prison. That's how it goes. This is real life.
Yeah, that is true.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about that one.
Solitary confinement is, sort of like this catch-all phrase, but the department and every department across our country uses restrictive housing because solitary confinement sounds torturous, which it is.
It is.
Restrictive housing, however, is also torturous because it's the same darn thing.
Right.
And so I have worked on, we've ended the practice for juveniles, and we ended the practice for pregnant and post-pregnant individuals. And so now in 2022, we're going back for individuals with serious mental illness, and then to just change the way they use it, period, in terms of the amount of time, and also individuals who are released directly back to the community from restrictive housing because that's a public safety threat to the community, but also to them.
That's awesome. And just for the people like me, isn't that where the word SHU comes from? Isn't it special housing unit?
Yeah, and they come up with all kinds of different...
Special housing unit doesn't sound so bad.
Yeah, special housing sounds like you get an extra bagel or something.
That's not what
That's not what you get, yeah.
No.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm sorry, we're just going to do these briefly.
No, that's fine.
This one has my heart, the reproductive justice.
Yes, reproductive justice inside. We advocate and fight for the reproductive rights, justice, and advocacy and access for incarcerated women and girls. And we're led by a leadership circle of formerly incarcerated and currently incarcerated individuals to let us know what's going on behind the prison walls in terms of pregnancy-related health care, menstrual hygiene. We became the 5th state to pass menstrual hygiene. We became the 1st state in the nation to have a model pregnancy policy that, shows how prisons and jails should handle everything from a pregnancy test all the way through the postpartum period to include breast pumping and abortion access. Mm-hmm. And we became the 1st state in the country to pass the bill that prohibited placing pregnant and post-pregnant individuals in solitary confinement. And I wrote that bill, and I'm very proud of that bill.
Wow.
And so,
congratulations. We're proud of you.
I'm real proud of that. And I wrote all the bills for our solitary confinement. So I'm a bill writing kind of like Liz, I guess.
Yes. And now we know that for sure. So so we have you
I love
bookmarked.
So proud of you for that. Okay, here's a fun one. This is a good one for you. I mean, you like them all, but prison from prison cells to PhD.
It is. We're based in Baltimore, but we are national, and actually now we can say that we're international. We are an educational-based program that believes in investing in potential, and that recognizes that education, whether it's vocational education or higher education, is a pathway out of poverty, but it's also a huge economic driver. And I was just talking to someone the other day about the importance of education and that it's a learned behavior. And so if mom or dad is incarcerated and they have the opportunity to get involved in educational programming, when they come home, they're going to continue that programming, but they're also going to understand the value of it, which they then translate to their families.
That one just squeezed my heart big. That's good. That's so big. That's why we need to support and encourage education in that world, and there's a lot of pushback. What's the pushback you've gotten?
Well, and everything really that you're talking about, I know the pushback, which is, well, then don't go to prison if you want to be treated, fairly or whatever the words are. But it's like, people think that the people in prison are just notorious, heinous crime makers, and that's not what it is. And so I really appreciate us talking about, just the simple humanity parts of the humane of, menstrual health and all of that in there. And school is a big thing. I'm working on a project now for that same thing based on Project Rebound, which I know you know about. But, whenever I see anything online, like, that's the same with you. I've seen your name everywhere. And I'm like, oh my God, there's Kimberly. Oh, Kimberly. Oh, there's Kimberly. So it seems like it's always the same things that I'm really excited about. And what a phenomenal thing to say, you go from prison to PhD, and I'm all about raising people up to their highest potential. And usually people that have been in prison are entrepreneurs, have major transferable skills that they can use to have a PhD or higher. And but shame and all that keeps that away, unless it's programs like yours that will.
I always say
help.
that I met some of the most brilliant individuals, some of the smartest people behind the fence, and given access to legitimate opportunity would absolutely change our world. And it's funny, real quick story. Years and years and years ago, Donald Trump, oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying that name. But anyway, Donald Trump, he had the very first apprentice show. And I was in this movement, and it was the very first time he did, his apprentice, right? Mm-hmm. And I actually approached his office, talked to his team about saying, I want to take 5 formerly incarcerated people, match it up against your 5, white bread, Yale educated, blah, 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 because my team is going to outshine yours.
For sure.
And they said, thank you, but no thank you.
Because they knew that would be the case.
What happened on the show when they did
College Behind Bars?
They did the debate, and they beat
Harvard.
Harvard.
Yep.
Yeah. That's kind of cool. I'm super glad that you brought that up on this show, because half of this show is for people like me that didn't experience incarceration
personally. You did in your family.
Personally, and so I love hearing that. Like, that blows your mind that the most 100% of our guests have said they've met the most amazing, incredible people behind bars. 100% of our guests have said that. So
that's awesome, and it's so true.
It is.
It is so true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and something I giggle about, Christy, is you're very you have an entrepreneur mindset often if you've been gone to prison, and you're very creative and
careful.
In prison, we call that hustling.
You just use it in the wrong way.
You have to hustle. Yes, for sure.
And when you come back, when you come home, that hustle is ingrained in you. I mean, you're listing off all of these different things that I'm doing. That is a straight up hustle. It's for a good cause, and I do the work for the right reasons, but it's legit a hustle.
For sure. When you see, an average person around the block that are like, oh, I go to work from 9 to 5 and I'm tired, I'm watching Netflix, and it's like, I'm looking at your list, just tired thinking about it, but that's the hustle. But with opportunity, if there's no opportunity, then you'll hustle in a different way. You know what I mean? But yeah, this is amazing.
Okay, let's go to there's a couple more. This one was a long one. I didn't write the whole thing down, but the Forward Justice Maryland, you can finish the title.
Yes, Forward Justice Maryland is a 3-year initiative that is looking at doing significant parole and probation reform in Maryland with the goal of decreasing our prison population. We have way too many people that are past parole eligibility, and this effort would get them considered and out on parole, and we would see a huge decrease in our prison population if we did that. Cool. And then nobody needs to be on supervision for more than 1 year if you are a nonviolent, and I hate the nonviolent versus violent conversation, but legislators seem to love that, and definitely for 3 years. And it's supposed to be supportive, not punitive. And so we need to completely dismantle how we do parole and probation.
Yeah.
Just for funsies, because I like can you describe parole that's supportive and not punitive?
Well, it all goes to the agent. And honestly, it has to begin from the day that you go inside, because 95% of the people that we incarcerate are coming home. And so when someone is eligible for parole, how do we set not just them and their family, but their community up to be successful? And that begins with making sure that there's seamless transition. So if somebody has a substance use issue, that they are referred to a qualified, provider in their area. If they have other health issues, that is part of that transition, so that it's seamless. But that also under supervision, you're not living in fear of the popo kicking in your door at 2:00 in the morning. And if your people in your neighborhood don't know, why is someone who's dressed like SWAT coming to your door? I mean, again, it's just that reminder that you are still under supervision, and it literally drives you into the ground like a tent peg to continue to battle all of this. And so we need to retrain agents. We need to, not everybody who gets out on parole or who's on probation is going to screw up. And if they do, they've made a choice. And so then let's think about, what does that look like? Did they screw up because they committed another offense? Well, was it an offense that is punishable by prison? And if so, are they in fact guilty, or are we just assuming? And therefore we're going to violate them, and then they sit inside until we have revocation hearings and the court is adjudicated. We disrupt at so many turns people's lives, and all we really need to do is explore off-ramps. And off-ramps that do not involve someone sitting in a parking lot, in a parking spot size room.
Yes. And a lot of times too, like I have a friend, Teresa, who was in for 27 years and got out for clemency, but then got out for COVID issues prior, and she's still every day afraid about going back, because what if you don't have the opportunity to do the right thing? Like, she has to drive 3 hours to another town where the halfway house is in the snow without having a license. How do you do that with, like, she's in panic fear all the time of doing that, and they just say, well, you want to go back to prison? So that's her day. That's the punitive thing she's lived with since May 2020. It's terrible.
When you have an agent that says you have 30 days to get a job, and you've been inside for 15 years, who's going to hire you with a 15-year gap at a job that would allow you the income to be able to provide for yourself and your family? And I'm not talking making, $200,000 a year. I'm talking about not even getting a job that would pay you minimum wage, because employers are not going to be the first ones that are going to hire you. And again, it goes back to, how do we prepare people to come?
Yeah, and what if they don't give them a pass to go do a job interview, but they're expected to get a job? It's all those things that people think, oh, that can't happen. Yeah, it does happen. I hear about it all the time, and it makes me so angry. I love that you're doing
Thank you for going a little more on that one. And then the final one I want to talk about with this stuff is the Dignity Leadership Alliance.
Yes, that is brand new, and we are going to be working with states across the country to help them also pass legislation that is rooted in dignity. So menstrual hygiene, pregnancy-related health care, anti-shackling, anything that goes to the dignity of somebody that is currently and formerly incarcerated. It is a critical conversation, because women have been correctional afterthoughts. And so through the Dignity Leadership Alliance, we're looking at changing that status quo kind of thing. And again, people forget that women are the backbone, not just of the family, but of the community. And if you incarcerate mom, you incarcerate the entire family. And women are low-hanging fruit for prosecutors. And so that's why our numbers are skyrocketing, and why we are the fastest growing segment of our prison population. And also the least to get services that we need, either as an off-ramp before incarceration or supportive services when we get released. And yet, the day that you're released, you've got to go back, and all of a sudden you not only have to manage all of the parole and probation requirements that you have, but you also have to find a job, you have to find a place to live. And your mom's going to be like, listen, you got to come get your kids. So now you got to be a mom, you got to be a wife, you got to be a girlfriend, and it's like an avalanche that just hangs over a woman's head, that she's trying to manage by herself.
And her family. One of the pushbacks, though, constantly is, well, then don't go to prison.
And
What
I
do you
want to
say
challenge
about
that. And you and I, we've talked a little bit
Yeah.
about this, because there's an arrogance to people
Yes.
who want to say that.
Yes.
There's also, and I don't want to say that everybody's arrogant, and I'm not going to say that,
Right.
but there's also naivete, because, you could be leaving your book club and you've had one glass of wine too much. You're at a bull roast and you've had one beer too much, and there's Johnny Popo sitting there and he does a breathalyzer. Well, guess what? You are now part of our fraternity and our sorority.
Right.
So there, but for the grace of God. And there's this great book called 3 Felonies a Day. And in it, that book posits that every day we commit 3 felonies, because we don't know. There's so many laws on the books at the federal level, the state level, the county level, the city level, the town level. You just have no way of knowing. And it is so easy to get tripped up, to be in the wrong place at the wrong time,
Yes.
to be hanging around the wrong person. It is so easy to get entrenched in the system and hard as hell to get out of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of times it's within your families, women with their brothers or, aunts or uncles, things like that. Yeah. And the increase of women in prison, I don't know offhand the percentage, but it's like 700% over the last few years. And that's just not because women are getting more crazy. It's just like you said, the low hanging fruit. So I appreciate that.
And when we have laws like, we don't have domestic violence laws, we don't have survivor laws on the books. And so honestly, if we could go back in and do retroactive, we could free a whole bunch of women because they were fighting for their lives.
Yeah.
Because domestic violence still has shame associated with it. And Christy, I know you've met women inside who were defending themselves, defending their children from an abusive spouse, an abusive parent, an abusive, girlfriend, whoever it was. They were defending themselves, and yet the law didn't recognize it because we have made domestic violence still a taboo subject. And, again, it's another way that women are getting trapped up in the system.
Absolutely. And also it depends on the state. If it's federal or even state. I know the judge that I was released to said she wouldn't, well, she didn't say these words, but another judge in the same state said, you went to prison that long for that? Like, they probably wouldn't even have put me in prison, but then Connecticut said I needed 5 years, so it really depends on the judge, really the state, even though it's federal, which doesn't make sense.
And honestly, it depends on your lawyer. If you have a public defender, and I don't want to bash the public defenders because I have a great relationship with my public defenders
me too.
Here in Maryland. But honestly, it depends on, how you're represented. And even some private attorneys, they just want to settle.
Yes.
And we have an absolute right under the Constitution to have a trial. And yet 95%, or actually I think it's probably like 98% now, of all criminal cases are adjudicated through plea agreements.
Well, yeah, because they get, if they go to trial and lose, it's 3-4 times the amount of time. I would never chance it based on what I know now.
It could be, but also how many times have we seen, people that took a plea, they go before the judge and the judge says, yeah, I'm not accepting this. Nope.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Everything is a crapshoot. Just because you have an agreement with a prosecutor, the judge does not have to go along with it.
Wow.
And people don't understand that. And also, how many times are people in a box where, listen, if you just tell me what happened, if you just say you smacked the crap out of somebody, then we can make, something else go away. Well, that's a second-degree assault. That's 10 years.
Yes.
And so, and you're making these decisions without understanding the full implication and the ramifications of those.
Yes.
And so, again, whether you go to trial or you take a plea, it is not something that can be decided on a dime, and yet that's when they want you to do it.
Yeah.
Make that decision. You have 1 minute to make this decision.
That's pretty much what happens. That's pretty much happens. Even when you tell on people, they're like, you have to tell. If you don't tell, they're going to tell on you and you're going to get 20 years. When you're first just arrested, you're like, what's going on?
What happened to you? And
yeah, that's exactly what happened. Yeah. And they, my attorney was mad at me. Like, you have to tell. And and really it was just another girl who I was incarcerated with, who I had just met. And I was like, what should I do? I had no idea what to do because I thought everyone was mad that I wasn't telling. And she said, you have to do what you are going to be comfortable with when you lay your head down at night. Only you. Exactly. And I thought, okay, I'm not telling. And she said, don't. But I went against everybody and everything around me.
Which was super
It
brave
was hard. It
and
was very hard
Yeah,
when
absolutely.
you're in a crash course of the criminal justice system.
And what the prosecutor's saying, the first one that talks gets the deal.
Yeah.
And, you know, what do you do with that?
That's what he said.
And
He
you're
said
in a room and
everybody
you don't have an attorney with you telling you what to do. And you certainly don't have, you know, somebody with a lived experience saying, listen, boo, you might want to rethink this.
Yeah, except I had a girl in prison. I'll never forget her. I don't remember her name, but she's the one that really helped me, you know, decide what would be best for me. But no one else was really explaining that to me. And they said, everyone tells Christy, everyone tells on their mother, everyone tells you have to tell. If you don't, you're an idiot. And I'm thinking, well, I don't think so. Anyway, yeah. So there's all sorts of things that people don't know. That's one of the reasons why we do this. So people that are listening can understand and not just hear from you know one person. So
I was thinking we have this great quote that you said about prison is what I went through, it's not who I am. And I would love a moment to kind of get deeper here. And where did that come from? And
and who are you?
Who are you, Kimberly? You can't see this in our thing.
No. Who are
There's
you?
our microphone.
I am an enigma wrapped in a riddle.
I love it. I love it. I can tell.
You know, it came about because, you know, prison is what I went through. It's not who I am. And I coined that phrase probably 20 years ago because we are all better than the worst day of our life. Mm-hmm. And because we went through something, it doesn't have to define us. It doesn't mean who we are, right? And so just because I went to prison, I shouldn't have to wear that stigma, that giant scarlet F on my chest the rest of my life. You and I had talked when we were decree interview, and I said, you know, back when I was 17 to 24, all I dated were married men. It doesn't say adulteress on my business card. And so, it's something that I did. I'm not real proud of it now, but it's not who I am. And so, again, when we start talking about prison, we talk about separating us from the shame and stigma of having that involvement with the criminal justice system. It's something that we went through. We did something. We were convicted of that something. We did the sanction, which is the prison time, and we came home. That's it.
That's it.
It's not who I am.
Yeah.
It doesn't define me. Now, I do this work because of what happened to me, because of the things that I saw, because of the things that I learned about, the things that I consistently hear about. And I've always been a scrappy fighter. I've always been the one that stands up for the underdog. Mm-hmm. And so, prison does define my work, but it doesn't define me. And so that's why I coined that phrase.
I think it's so important that we also broaden that to not just incarceration and not just things that become public and that everybody finds out, whether it's they can Google your crime or your community knows about things. Like there's so much that shame keeps us down and keeps when we decide that the worst thing, the worst day, the worst decision, whatever it was, defines us. And then that's what we use to walk forward with in life. It keeps us small. It keeps us quiet. It takes our power. We're not effective for the people in our lives and the people around us. And so anybody that we've had on this show is somebody that has decided that it doesn't define who they are, but it has shaped the heart and the work that they want to do. And so I love you completely fit into that mold for us. And it's inspiring, and it's every single person, the more people we can get to not be living in their shame and to be owning the journey and the decisions and the lessons that we learn along the way. And then, I mean, Christine and I are big about being the biggest cheerleaders for people that want to make their lives better and want to serve and love on the people around them. If you're not doing that work, it's a little trickier to come alongside you. We will, but we love cheering on those that want to make a difference.
Honestly, and I say this, and I said this the other day to somebody, that not everybody wants to come out about prison. Right. Not everybody wants to admit it because, and I always tell people, if there's a risk of you being harmed, and however you define harm, then don't do that. But if you can be truly your authentic self and be transparent in safety, and that's what you choose to do, great.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't, and that's okay too. As long as they don't let it debilitate or define their own expectations and their own trajectory to a better life for themselves and for those that are around them. Because there are so many, there are hundreds of thousands of people that have been in prison that are doing the most phenomenal work, and you would never know it. And they don't have to out themselves. They don't have to tell their story. It's all okay. As long as you know internally, when you lay your head down at night, you know you've done good. Right. And you know that you are not letting something that you went through define who you are to anybody, including yourself.
Yes.
Because just because you went to prison does not mean that you can't reach out and get involved with P2P and say, I want to go back to school. We don't ask. We don't care.
Yeah.
We want to help you get, whatever it is that you want to do. And so I think that, again, as long as it's not going to cause you harm as you define it for your life, then everybody has to make that decision.
Yeah. And I don't think it even needs
Some of us are just kind of bold and out there,
We wouldn't know anything about people like that. I just go back to, it's not telling everybody the thing that you did necessarily. It's like you said, it's having the internal compass to say, I experienced this, I learned from this. And it could be the simplest thing is you have your 9-to-5 job and you come home and you love your children at night and you make better decisions. And just that's what we want to cheer on. We want to cheer on the effort to learn and grow and not keep people back.
It sounds like you're speaking from experience.
Should it?
She's speaking from experience too. I think, and a lot of times too, it's not a big, bold statement. I know for me, it wasn't in the beginning. It was just a quiet one person I'm standing next to that has a statement about something, and I think I can offer a good insight. I'm going to offer good insight. Oh, I didn't tell you today, this girl, it was funny. I have to tell you, I didn't tell you this girl, because I work at a hotel on Sunday mornings, and this girl was wearing a t-shirt that said, I'm too pretty to be in prison, or I'm too pretty to go to prison. I said, oh, I like your shirt.
Oh,
yeah. And then I said, where'd you get it? She said, oh, it was a Miranda Lambert concert. And I said, oh my God, I want that shirt. And she goes, oh yeah, you can get it there. And then she goes, oh yeah, it would look good on you. I said, yeah, especially since I just got out of prison.
What'd she do? That's awesome.
Her and her boyfriend both were like, I said, yeah. I said, but that shirt it has a whole other meaning. And they stumbled a little bit, but it was funny. But, and I think, before, like I said, I was never going to tell anybody either. But what I realized is I just squashed some stigma there.
Yeah.
Because
you're so pretty and you went to prison.
But they watched me perform my job really well for 20 minutes while I was in the lobby. I was, connecting with people, enjoying them, and then say that, then it kind of, that they don't expect it. And I don't care what they think anymore. So it was funny, their faces.
Unless your crime, your offense was something that was all over your local newspaper or all over the big Fed papers, whatever. Unless you give somebody a reason to Google you, nobody really cares.
No one cares. Yeah.
Unless you give somebody a reason to Google you.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah. Who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like when I got a job, my first job, I was like almost wanting to throw up to tell him that I was in prison. And he just said, oh, I guess we can't go out for a beer after. I said, no. And he goes, okay. And that's it. And I was like, I thought it was going to be this big whole thing, but no one cares. They think back on the times he could have been in prison or jail. When
we go back to the supportive things, we don't give people the tools to be able to interview for a job. That's why ban the box movements are so big. I wrote the ban the box for employment in Baltimore City in 2015. By the way, it got signed into law while I was incarcerated, just so you know.
That's hilarious.
That's awesome.
Bill signing. I had to watch it on the news. I was all kinds of pissed about that, but okay.
I want to hear more about that.
That's
but we don't tell people, when you go for an interview, how to handle that.
No, you don't.
How to handle that question. And we also don't tell people, listen, the EEOC says that unless my offense, my crime is directly related to the job that I'm doing, then you shouldn't hold my criminal record against me.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't
Is
tell
that true?
people, listen, if they ask you and, if they're going to make a big deal about it, then listen, you really don't want to work there. Because when something kicks off, because something kicks off in every single job,
Yeah.
you're the first one that's going to go. You're the first one that the popo are going to knock on your door and go, So again, we don't give people the tools. Yeah, you can tell them from Baltimore, right? We don't give people the tools to be able to stand up and advocate for themselves in these situations.
And that's what you do. That's what you're doing in that. And I love that. Yeah. You have no idea how to do any of that. Shame is the driving force. At least with me, it was in the beginning.
Yep.
Did you hit the ground running when you got out of prison, or did you have a period of time where you were just sort of regrouping?
Well, I did prison on the installment plan.
You want to describe
and
that? Yeah, describe that.
Okay, so that means like you do something, you go in, and then you come out, and then there's a period of time, and you do something, and you go back. It's that revolving door kind of thing. But what made me so the very first time, the day that I rolled up into the prison gates, the girl that was sitting next to me leaned across me and screamed out the window, "Tell my mother that I'm here." And I'm looking at this girl like, what in the heck are you talking about? And again, women create community within prison, right? But it was not her mother.
Yeah.
They're not really your sister, your auntie, your cousin,
Yeah,
your grandma, your whatever. But in this case, what really got me was I saw 3 generations of one family, a legit grandmother, mother, daughter. And that's when I went, something's wrong.
Yes.
And I could have gone home and just become a soccer mom and put it all behind me. But again, Scrap likes to fight, stand up for the underdog, right is right, wrong is wrong. And I was like, yeah, no, so can't do that. And then when I realized that I lost my right to vote, that's when I went, oh, hell no, got to change that. And so every time that I came out, I hit the ground running. But I also hit the ground running armed with a new set of experiences, a new set of insight. It connected me with the work, which is really a screwed up way to say that. But
It did.
every time I went to prison, it connected me with the work, right? But even when I was on the inside, I was a jailhouse lawyer. I beat every ticket that I ever represented. I'm savvy enough to understand it. I was still writing advocacy stuff going out. I wrote motions for reconsideration. I wrote, parole and probation appeals. I did all of that. I got people out before I got myself out. I mean, I'm just saying.
I wish you were around when I was in there. I didn't know anyone that did that stuff.
And that's, part of the hustle. I was a tampon queen when I was in. Now I'm a tampon bitch.
What does the tampon queen mean exactly? I have a feeling.
Tampon queen was before we passed the menstrual hygiene bill. One of my hustles, in addition to all the other ones that I did on the inside, I was in chemo-induced menopause. I should not have had a bleeding incident, and I had 3. I almost hemorrhaged. And so I learned really quick how to make homemade tampons while you're in prison.
Yes.
And as a result of that, when I came home, I had toxic shock syndrome and had to have an emergency hysterectomy. So on top of breast cancer, I had to have a hysterectomy. Yay, reproductive.
And look at the work.
So I started talking about menstrual hygiene products and how women they turned down visits with their families. They turned down visits with their lawyers, the very people trying to get them out of prison, because you would walk up to the visiting and you can't take anything with you. And then at the end of the visit, you have to get butterball naked, strip, squat, cough, the whole 9 yards. And you've got this bloody pad there that you're not going to want to put back up against your body. They don't give you a replacement. And so armed with that, that's how I got the moniker. I was the tampon queen.
Wow.
And now that I've passed the law, and now that I stepped to other states, now I'm just the tampon bitch.
We love her.
I love that. I love lots about that. But
Yeah.
I really love that you take a very terrible experience and you are now like loving all of these women by what you're doing in that work. From something, I say a lot in my own family, like I'll take it for the team, like I'll take the hit so that maybe I can give something better to you, whether it's an example or a better life or some wisdom. I say that to my kids a lot. Like, I took it for the team in a lot of ways. And it's like, you took it for the team for all these women now that are benefiting from the work you're doing because of something hard you went through. I just love that.
I know. Isn't it amazing? So I have a question. If you never went to prison and didn't know anything about prison, what would you be doing? What do you think your career would be?
If I never went to prison,
yeah,
I will harken back to the fact that I only dated married men. I would probably be on, I don't know, husband 3 or 4. I'd be retired somewhere and exceptionally wealthy, and I'd be a philanthropist.
And there we have honesty.
Wow. I love that. And that's so refreshing because so much of the time, I mean, I lived a lot of my life with thoughts as that, but would never say it because it was inappropriate or not, whatever the word is, not accepted. And it's so cool to be able to just say your truth because that's other people's truth that don't talk about it.
Yep.
So I love it.
We all wish we could win the lottery and be a philanthropist.
Oh,
how many times do you go buy the lottery tickets and you go, Lord, if you let me win, I will tithe, I will be a philanthropist, I will be a better person, and then you don't get those winning numbers and you go, well, damn, that just, out the window on that.
Yeah.
But then you go buy them again and you make the same thing. So, but if you won the lottery, you probably really would.
Yeah. Increase
your tithes, you would be a philanthropist. Mm-hmm. I just would have started being a philanthropist a whole lot, younger when I was, perky boobed and skinny and, much blonder, I'm just saying.
Kimberly, you're our kind of people.
She is our kind of. Can you imagine doing our walks with Kimberly? We would be walking 4 miles. Usually we do about 5 miles. We would be 10 miles in going, I got to get home. It's 11 o'clock p.m.
Several nights a week we walk when it's getting dark and we don't realize how dark it is by the time we get back and how far away from our homes we are. And it's because we can't stop talking and we can't stop solving problems. And so on our walks, we would
have to set the alarm
4 towns away for sure by the time we turn back around.
I want to go to Maryland.
Oh my God, I would be creating so many things. I always say that at 2 a.m, I'm the most dangerous woman in the world.
That's awesome.
Because I create all kinds of stuff. So my newest brainchild, and I'm going to break this news.
I want to hear what
is so. One of the issues that we have with individuals that are incarcerated, I love the fact that the 2-year-old
we are all about the brainchild. I'm so excited.
We don't facilitate the pumping of breast milk. It's bad enough that you've got to leave the baby with a family member or Child Protective Services, God help us.
Or foster.
But you still have to express your breast milk. And so we know the benefits of breast milk for babies. But there's no way of getting that breast milk to your child, right? And so I, in my head, have created Boob-er. And it's Boob-er, and then the O's, there's 2 little dots, because we're going to,
I told you would love
we are going to train volunteers to go to an institution, pick up the milk, bring it to where the baby is, and be able to train the caregiver in the proper story. I'm serious, y'all.
I know you are. I think it's amazing.
I'm looking for investors, actually. But yeah, so I've been wanting to do this because it does not. She's already gone.
She gets so happy.
Because there is this need. So, for instance, in Maryland, we have 1 women's prison in the state, right? And if somebody is, in our Western Maryland or on the Eastern Shore, that's 3 hours. Nobody's going to do that. Even in a county, if let's say your mom, your grandma, your sister's taking a baby, what if they don't have a car?
Right.
How did they get to the local detention center? Enter Boob-er.
Stop. I think it's brilliant. I mean, I'm just crying right now. I mean, because
for all sorts of reasons.
Yeah, because I'm a mama. I breastfed for 5 years of my life.
And you're a doula.
And I'm a doula. I have a heart for the mamas and the babies.
We did a breast pump drive 2 years ago right before COVID. August is breastfeeding awareness. well, we can't do breastfeeding in prison. So I did something different. I said, let's do breast pump awareness. And so we did a drive. I just put it out one time on the RJI social media. I had every mom's group. I mean, they were like forwarding it all. My office looked like breast pump central. I still have breast pumps coming in because people don't think about, after you are done breastfeeding, you still have supplies that are left. And your insurance company provides you with that, but you may buy a top of the line model. So I had women saying, listen, I got the stuff from my insurance company. Can you use that? Brand new in a box? Absolutely. And so we were distributing those to our local detention centers. And then when it got to be so unwieldy, we started
in prison again.
Did you get a phone call?
and or do they encourage? My best friend, when she was incarcerated and she had to leave her child, we know what happens when you leak. They didn't give her anything. They gave her some gauze and some tissues and said, there you go.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And so I, armed with all of this, Boob-er.
I love it. And you know what? The other part of it that I really love is bridging communities, making women that want to help. I have a lot of women that say, what can I do besides writing letters? And they can help, and they really feel a part of the solution instead of like them and us, which is great. I love it. The other thing that I can't help but think often as you're speaking is that you're all the way in Maryland. So you've done so much work. How do we take advantage, and how do we use your efforts to transfer as much as possible to other states? Like Shannon Ross that we had on is very Wisconsin, and he's doing so much stuff that when he's talking like you, I'm like, I want to do that. I want to do that in Oregon. So I'm thinking, how can we do something to where the states can get together and then think, wow, this is what you did. I want to do that in my state. Give me some of the language you used so that I can just pop in some, specific, state
Honestly,
specific.
I think that I'm happy to help. And truthfully, people can reach out to me. I am more than happy to consult. Of course, I want to be paid because, again, hustle, girl, got to eat. And I got a terrier that, is bougie as crap and goes to doggy daycare, 5 days a week.
Yeah, totally. But I mean, we got to do that more.
I work for him. Yeah. I work for him. I mean, honest to God. So organizations can hire me to consult, to come out and help develop, to do a landscape analysis of what they're doing and bring my knowledge, because I am an OG in this. Someone called me an OG and I was like, oh my God, I think I'm offended. And then I realized what it was. And I was like, oh, hell no, I wear that proudly.
Yeah, I love OG. Yeah.
Right?
OG is good. So, you've worked hard for that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think that there are a lot of ways. We just have to be willing to say, we need to bring somebody in who already has this to help us do this, because I'm happy to do that. But again, terrier got to eat. I'm just saying.
That's awesome. I
so
love that.
I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but this was like the fastest hour we've ever done.
Right?
We're not done, but we're sneaking up to it. So we have a couple of things. We want to see if there's any questions first.
Sure.
And then we want to do our speed round. I don't know if you've seen us do a speed round before, but you're going to be on the hot seat. Not that that scares you at all.
No, that doesn't scare her. She's like, bring it. Let's see. Okay. So, yeah, we have a few things besides inspiring. And then, let's see. Lynn Espejo says, even if you go to trial, you are found guilty most of the time. Living proof from Lynn for sure. Yeah. Do you know Lynn?
Well, did you guys connect?
We haven't, but I thank you for that. She did reach out to me. So Lynn, I will be contacting you this week. I definitely want to connect with you. Thank you.
Great, because you remind me of each other with all that.
That just for our listeners, as I was doing my pre-interview with Kimberly, she was saying all these things that just reminded me so much of a previous guest we had, Lynn Espejo. and I knew they needed to know each other. So the contact has been made, and I'm glad about that. Okay.
Oh, and then Lynn just also responded about if you're a white collar, it's a little bit different. She just talked to another white collar person that was hired and then told that the job was rescinded due to her white collar case. I know that happens as well. She said she served time with many that were mother, daughter, sisters, or other relationships serving time together. It's very common, unfortunately. It is true that a lot of times, I know when I first went to the shoe in Danbury and I hear mother, sister, I thought, oh my God, there's all these people in here. And sometimes, like you said, we learn to form communities because that's how people are. We're meant to be connected, so we do that as well. So yeah, so I think that's great. Just lots of comments. Thank you.
You'll have to check out all the comments when we're done,
yes,
Kimberly.
Thank you, everybody. This is great.
Yeah.
I love that.
So we're going to do our speed round. Are you ready? Just a short little quick answer, and we're just going to get to know some fun facts.
Okay. What's the craziest thing you saw in prison?
Aside from, 3 generations of one family?
Yeah.
I think one of the craziest things that I saw was someone who tried to escape and literally made it to the almost outside door, because that's how stupid correctional officers are. And if she hadn't been wearing the wrong kind of shoes, she would have made it.
What do you mean the wrong kind of shoes? Was she wearing her work boots?
She wasn't wearing the nurse. She was dressed as a nurse. She made a wig, but she was wearing staged shoes.
Oh, so
Yeah.
Close. Wow, I haven't heard that before. Describe yourself in 3 words that we haven't said here yet.
Beast.
Ooh, beast. Ooh, yeah.
That just kind of.
That's good.
Yep, beast.
I want more. Give us more.
We want 2 more.
Oh, wow. Beast. OG.
OG, yep.
Delightful.
Ooh,
I would agree.
I am a delightful person.
A delightful OG beast.
You have such a good sense of humor too. You can laugh about the things, but you're direct, and
it's very refreshing.
We just think you're one of us. You're our girl.
She's our girl. You know what we want to do? Oh, this is a side note, but I'm sorry. You can't control
I'm a little worried what she's going to say.
I know she's always worried.
Well, I'm always worried what you're going to say, and you're always worried I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, okay. So whatever. So just as a side note, and anyone that's listening, we want to, and we're stirring this pot, and since you're a beast, maybe you can help us think of a way. We want to have a conference here in Ashland, Oregon, with the people that we've had on, because there are so many just kick-ass men and women. Can you imagine like having a whole conference of people that are involved with, that have been involved with incarceration one way or the other, just inspiring and kicking ass to like regular CEOs and, secretaries and just people in the community that, kids, high schoolers, college students. That keeps coming to me. So if anyone wants to sponsor something like that, fly everyone out here, just have a big river raft trip, and we'll just kick some ass.
There's our dream.
That's our dream. So I just had to say that.
Good.
Okay. Let's see. If you could talk in your sleep, what would you say?
Oh my God, I'd be afraid if I talked in my sleep. I think that if I talked in my sleep, I would legit be arguing with a legislator or a corrections official, or getting ready to lose my computer.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
If all of a sudden it got really dim, and I was like, yeah, I know what that means. I do. I fight in my sleep. Like, I have these arguments with corrections officials, legislators, with the media, and I play both sides. I mean, it's horrible. So if I talk to my sleep, I'm sure that's what I would do.
Awesome.
You would be fighting. Let's see. Are you a morning or night person?
Both. I'm generally a morning person, but night is when I'm dangerous. So
are you an all-night person? Like, are you Oh yeah, that's what you said. You're at 2 a.m. You're dangerous. Nice.
Yep.
Okay. How cool are you on a scale of 1 to 10?
Wow.
We know the answer.
We already know it.
We'll answer that.
Well, why don't we see?
Okay.
I'm going to say 8.
10. Nay, not 8. You're 10.
But
Let's
I
see.
love you guys.
If you were running for office, what would your campaign slogan be?
Oh, I would never run for office.
Yeah.
I
That
have
would
too
be
many
a
skeletons
fun.
I have too many skeletons in my closet, and I don't cry pretty, and I cry very easily. But
Oh.
I will puppet master the crap out of somebody's
Ooh.
campaign. If they really want,
Oh.
particularly if they're one of us, I will puppet master the crap out of somebody's campaign.
you just found
I
your
will not
campaign
be-
manager.
I was
Chrissy's gonna be governor.
No, I'm not going to be governor.
You
I
can be
think
her-
you should be. I have too many skeletons. You
Right?
should be governor.
I don't want
I have
to.
too many skeletons, and I don't cry pretty. So,
Yeah.
Yep. Nope.
But I'm with
I
you too.
tried to
I'm a
cry.
huge crier. I can't. Yeah.
I'm not a crier. I wish I was. That would have saved me a little
All
bit
day,
of
every day,
hassle, but
happy,
I can't-
sad,
I
whatever.
can't cry very well. Okay,
I
let's
just
see.
love the fact that you almost cried when I said Boob-er.
Oh no,
She was
I was
crying.
crying quite a bit. It was.
I have something I have to send you. I have someone that makes these mugs, these boob mugs. That's perfect for that. I got to call her if she's not watching.
God, yes.
Amazing
Speaking of
grace.
boobs,
Okay, what compliment do people give you the most?
Hilarious, wicked smart, and beast.
Ooh, I love that. Okay, let's see. Let me say one more word, one more phrase. What makes you smile?
People like you
Aw.
that I get to meet in this work that are authentic, and my bougie ass little dog Tucker.
Aw, yay.
Oh,
We
so
love that.
good. This was so delightful. That's
Mhm.
a kind of a silly word, but this
It's
was
true.
so delightful. I'm so happy that we got to talk more today, and
Absolutely.
your strength and your conviction and your honesty is just it's awesome. It's just powerful.
Yeah.
I want powerful
Thank
people
you.
in my life, and you are in my world now. I'm so excited about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's something about someone that is kicking ass and honest and funny and just sharing and willing to tell you straight that, I mean, to have people like that in your circle. I mean, I feel like we can just take on the world. I mean, it sounds a little
Absolutely.
crazy, but it's like, okay, what else? I mean, yeah, it's great. We love it. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Is that it?
Well, I'm sad that it's it, but it is. Did we already kind of do this? Do you have one final thought that you want to tell our audience that just maybe a perspective on the world of incarceration or prison reform? Just, I don't know, one big final push you want to say.
Wow. I think that what I would really like people to understand is that we have, everything in the criminal justice system is on a pendulum, right? And so right now it's here where it's kind of sexy.
Yeah.
But if we don't act now while we have these opportunities, it's going to go this way and it goes the other way. And so while it's still sexy to get involved, and we have the power within our collective selves to end mass incarceration.
Yes.
To really change our system for the better. And it's going to take all of us. It's going to take working collaboratively. It's going to take reaching out, to the people that are actually doing the work and saying, how can I support you?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if people want to support the work that I'm doing in Maryland, and my work resonates across the country. So just because I'm based in Maryland doesn't mean that I'm not actively working in other states. I don't care if you donate $5 a month to my nonprofit. Donate $5 a month.
Yeah.
You're a philanthropist.
Yeah.
And I think that, there's ways of doing that. Reach out, ask the questions, learn more. The more you know, the more that you can't unknow.
There you go.
And so I really want people, I hope you share my contact information.
Yes, we will.
I will talk to anybody at any time about any of this, because I do think we do have it within the power of us to change things. It's just going to take us working together.
Yes, and anytime we're locking arms, especially women, anytime we're locking arms and going forward and changing things, it's powerful. It's phenomenal and powerful. Yeah.
We think you're fabulous. We love you. Thank you. You were here with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I was just going to say, and then we'll see you on Friday of our Faces of Women in Prison graduation, where we do
Absolutely.
our little speech.
Yes.
And, yeah, I'm so glad to to spend this time with you.
I am too. Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you everybody who's watching. Please reach out, get involved, ask the questions. I look forward to hearing from folks.
And you know, I always do this one last thing, but the prison to PhD, that is not just for Maryland, right? Because I've sent that.
National.
Yeah, I've sent that out to several people that are applying for that in different states. So I love
honestly,
to be the person.
Go through the program, when they go through the program, if they want to see the the from prison cells to PhD program in their state, they can become state ambassadors, and so they can launch a P2P program in their own jurisdiction, and we will help do that. I will do those trainings. I will be on the ground to help you build the important relationships that you need with corrections, with education, with the community, because we do believe in investing in potential. And the way that we invest in our potential is by investing in each other.
Yes. Amen.
On that note, that was awesome. Okay.
Thank
Have
you.
a great night, and we will be talking soon.